Believe it or not, we are 21 days away from Election Day, so I think we can officially start the countdown here on Constituency Watch. Tonight, we head back to the Central Region and to the Assin South constituency. It is a constituency which has been led by both the NDC and the NPP in the past, but of course, the constituency has a longer period of affiliation with the NPP, which has represented it in Parliament since 2000. And as we do every weeknight here on the show, we invite you to join us in the analysis via text on our short code 1760 across networks, or WhatsApp us on 0544 334 722. Our social media platforms are also active: facebook.com/joynews, or follow us on Twitter at joynews.on.tv, or at NeSmart, which is my Twitter handle. My name is Nia Krofi Smartabe, and Election Headquarters and Constituency Watch are brought to you by the kind sponsorship of Star Ghana. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Your election headquarters on TV, radio, and online. Election headquarters supported by Star Ghana and Infobox.
Welcome back to Constituency Watch here on Joy News on Multi TV, brought to you through the support of Star Ghana. The Assin South constituency is usually a quiet one, but it has over the years, if you like, switched its allegiance from the NDC to the NPP, who have been representing it in Parliament since 2000. Bearing in mind the campaign by gender activists to get women into Parliament, will it impact the chances of the NDC's candidate, Sabina Appiah-Kubi? Or will Professor Dominic Fobi work his magic again on the electorates this December? We'll be back to look at that, but first, a profile of the Assin South constituency.
The Assin South constituency in the Central Region has two main paramountcies, namely Assin Atandanso and Assin Apimenim. It is home to the former slave market at Assin Manso, where Emancipation Day celebrations are held to mark the abolition of the trade. The constituency shares boundaries with the Assin North, Twifo Herman Lower Dentra, and Abra Asei Bukwaman Kese constituencies. The constituency has since the early 2000s been dominated by the New Patriotic Party. At the start of the Fourth Republic, however, it was represented in Parliament by the National Democratic Congress's Kobna Otri, who won 8,356 of the total votes cast. The NDC maintained its hold of the constituency in 1996 as its candidate at the time, Kweku Alhassan Daze, polled 14,945 votes, or 43.10% of the total votes, to beat the New Patriotic Party's Dominic Fobi, who secured 12,488 votes. Professor Fobi was, however, successful in his second bid in the year 2000, securing 16,140 votes, or 60.30%, to defeat the then-incumbent Kweku Alhassan Daze of the NDC, who managed 10,031, or 37.50% in that poll. Dominic Fobi returned to the race in 2004 and successfully polled 20,837 votes, or 62.9%, whilst the NDC's new candidate Abraham Kweku Fokuo managed 11,060 votes, or 33.4%. The NPP's Dominic Fobi again retained the Assin South seat in 2008 with 16,963, or 53.3%, whilst the NDC's Sabina Appiah-Kubi polled 14,335 votes, or 45%. Just like in the parliamentary race, the NPP has dominated the presidential race in the Assin South constituency as well since 2000. But former President Rawlings won the seat for the NDC in 1996 with 15,186 votes, or 54.1%, whilst the NPP's candidate at the time, Kofor, polled 12,642, or 45.1%. The tides, however, turned in 2000 when the NPP's John Kufuor polled 15,597 or 58.6% to beat the NDC's new presidential candidate John Mills, who managed 10,116 or 38% in the first round of voting. In the runoff polls, John Kufuor again led the pack, polling 17,258 or 68.60%, whilst the NDC's John Mills polled 7,915 votes or 31.40%. In 2004, John Kufuor of the NPP broadened his margin of victory, polling 21,338 or 65.11%, whilst the NDC's John Mills managed 10,837 or 33.07%. The NPP's new candidate for the 2008 polls, Nana Akufo-Addo, secured 17,741 votes during the first round polls, whilst the NDC's John Mills managed 13,392. In the runoff polls, Nana Addo again maintained his lead with the 18,735 or 56.87%, whilst the NDC's John Mills managed 14,206 or 43.13%. Farming is the predominant occupation in the Assin South constituency. Unlike most farming communities in the hinterlands, it lags behind in terms of development. The road network, for instance, in the constituency is in a deplorable state, and residents say it often leads to accidents. This, they say, has persisted over the years despite the change of governments. But the NPP's candidate, who is also the incumbent MP, Professor Dominic Fobi, blames the current NDC administration for the stalled development of the constituency.
That short interruption where NDC took over power has actually not helped my people. For instance, I was able to bring electricity to 13 communities during my time. But this term, it has been very difficult even getting one community supplied with electrification. There are a number of institutions which need upgrading. Like we have 4 secondary schools, senior high schools. One of them, we were trying to relocate them at a new permanent site. We started working on 2-story classrooms and a dormitory for the girls, but since 2009 there has been no improvement in these structures. They are still where they are. There are 11 school projects that were started in 2008. Some of them are at almost completion stage. Others are at different levels of completion, and yet for the 4 years, they have not even been completed for school children to use them. Now, I think all these things need my attention, and I have to intervene to help bring these jobs to completion for my people.
So that is our profile of the Assin South constituency. And just a quick information to run by you. If you have missed out on any of our shows since we started, you can get to watch them again on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/myjoyonlinetube. And well, unfortunately tonight we will not be able to speak to any of the candidates, or should I say the leading contenders in that constituency, because Professor Dominic Fobi says he's unavailable tonight, and we have not been able to make contact with the Sabina Apiakubi, the NDC's candidate. But joining me in the studio is the deputy editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper, Peter Ankuma, who has done a lot of work in the central region, so he will help us understand this particular constituency and how events are likely to play up in that constituency. Good evening, Peter, and thanks for joining us on Constituency Watch.
Good evening, Smart.
Okay, so let's start off. Assin South is a fairly quiet constituency. We don't get to hear much of it, but looking at the results that we've seen from that constituency over the years, can we now conclude that it's an MPP stronghold?
Not really. Of course, it's a constituency that the MPP over the years, from 2000, has been winning, and so one can easily say that they have an edge over the years. It's, you know, we've discussed this before, that the electorate here in the central region are very liberal. But there are some areas within the central region that the parties do have control over the constituencies.
Okay.
There are some areas in the central region that the NDC, for instance, will always win. There are areas, for instance, that the CPP also trace their antecedents and so has some edge there. And there are areas also that the MPP also do have their chunk of support base. And so it's slightly ahead.
But Assin South
and Assin South, the Assin areas happen to be one of the areas that the MPP do have control.
Okay.
And this one, what they've done is that they've taken some electoral areas or some areas from the Assin South and then some areas from the Assin North and created Assin Central from it. So what they did was that they added Assin South, Assin North and created a new constituency from it. And that makes it much more quite close.
Okay.
You see, in the 2004 elections, for instance, when the Electoral Commission decided to increase the constituencies from 2,000 to
230.
From 200 to 230 seats. There were two seats that the MPP had control over, Asokwa East, Asokwa West. In fact, they were seats that MPP had always been, or had virtually, it was more like a safe seat for the MPP. But when they joined that two constituencies together and created the Asawase from it, the areas that formed Asawase happened to be an area that the NDC had control over. And so you realize that Muntaka has been, yes. Yeah. He came in during by-elections, but of course it was an NDC candidate who won 2004. He came in to a by-election and won it, and then won it again in 2008. So when these things happen, you need to study the trend in terms of electoral history. You need to study the electoral areas and how and you need to spend a lot of work in the constituency to find out the trend. But before I come to that, let me give you some, should I say, background on electoral history of the two seats to buttress the point I'm making.
Both the South and the North.
To buttress the point I'm making, that it's a seat that, or it's an area that the MPP has always been, and it looks like if it had been the split, they would have always been winning those seats. And it's for several reasons. You know, we've discussed the issue about why people will always want to vote for a political party. It's because of the fact that sometimes the people feel more celebrated, or they believe that a political party favors them than the other political parties, and so we always want to vote
just tag along with them.
Sure. And the issue, another issue also, is that there are people who also think that the political parties in which they were born into, it could be party A, party B, or whoever, but they feel like their roots or their lineage is to that party, and so they should continue voting for. And I've seen people happen to be, not all of them though, but the majority of them. You realize that it's a constituency that the other parties, especially the NDC, has some strong support base, but those strong support base not enough to compete that of the MPP. But there are also, of course, you will find some kingmakers in some of these areas. I mean, people who are necessarily not aligned to any of the political parties, that will want to see the issues, want to see the personality and whether the person can better represent them in parliament in terms of articulating their issues, in terms of facilitating their developmental projects and others, in terms of addressing the pertinent issues that the constituents want to see and other things. But we'll come to all those things.
Sure.
So you find out that in Assin North, for instance, in 1996, the MPP won it comfortably with a margin of victory of 10,838.
The NDC?
The MPP in 1996.
96?
96. I mean the Assin North.
Okay, sure.
Where Kennedy Japan is the member of parliament. Now he is contesting Assin Central.
Yeah.
In the presidential, they won. In 2000, Assin North, the MPP again won the constituency In 2004, they still won it, Mr. Kennedy, or Hine Japan. In 2008, again, he won again for the MPP. In the Assin South, where Professor Dominic Fobi is the member of parliament, in 1996, was won by the NDC.
Yeah.
You know, in 1992, the election was virtually contested by the, most of the seats were won by the NDC.
Yeah.
And so he contested again in 1996 and won it with a margin of victory of 2,457. You've already given out the figures they got. But the margin of victory between the MDC and MPP in 1996 was 2,457. There were CPP candidates, Emmanuel Kwanson polled 629. And in the presidential, of course, the NDC and former President Rawlings won with this almost the same margin of victory, 2,544.
Yeah.
But by 2000, you know, we've also discussed this before, the issue of wind of change. The people, most of the electorate were sort of fed up with the NDC and needed or wanted change, if you like. And then the NDC also lost the central region in 2000 in the coastal areas, and all manner of regions accounted for that. And so the MPP this time won. They cancelled the 2,457 votes and won the constituency with a margin of victory of 6,109. In the presidential, the margin of victory of 5,481. You will find out that Professor Dominic Fobi, then, you know, in the central region also, apart from even Assin here, apart from the fact that most of the people who vote for the MPP, they also, the kingmakers, which is quite sizable, also look at the personalities.
Okay.
Professor Dominic Fobi then was quite popular in terms of being a professor and was quite known within the area. And so that sort of, apart from the wind of change and all those things that sort of worked for the MPP in 2000, it sort of helped him to win the seats the more, in terms of the more margin of victory. Because when you check the margin of victory in which he won, and you compare that to the margin of victory in which the party itself won,
he did far better.
He did far better in that year, the election, than his party.
Yeah.
But by 2004, that's, of course, you know, positive change chapter 2, the wind of, you know, Kufuor enjoyed relative goodwill, and that sort of helped him in 2004 in terms of continuity, you know. And Professor Dominic Fobi also did quite some good work then, and so was able to increase the margin of victory from 6,500 and something to 9,777. You see, and then the MPP by then had become also very popular in the constituency and also won the constituency with a margin of victory of 10,501. But by the 2008 elections, the woman who contested on the ticket of the NDC did very well, Madam Sabina Apiakubi. And she happens to be the candidate again this time. In fact, she is the district chief executive. She was quite popular and was, you know, and so appealed a lot to the kingmakers the more, in terms of, you know, articulating the issues, in terms of raising how she was going to address the issues affecting the constituency, in terms of better representing them in parliament, and so, and was focused. You know, in 2008, the NDC,
they were bent on winning the elections.
So their strategy, their campaign, they were focused. They adopted the best of strategy. They were united. You know, unity also counts. In some of these constituencies, when your fronts are divided, the other will take some chunk of votes from your core support base. And when it happens, so because some of your supporters are sort of aggrieved, they sort of become apathetic. And apathetic means that they will, even some would think that, oh, in any case, the candidate is going to win anyway. So and so will decide not even, or for some reasons will decide not even come out to vote at all. And when it happens like that, that is a minus in the case of the presidential, because the person, of course, would have voted for you and would have voted for your presidential candidate. But for some reasons, because he or she is aggrieved, will not turn out to vote at all.
Okay.
And for that matter, there's some deficit in terms of the presidential, the elections. And again, for some reasons, we also decide that because they have not been treated fairly, might also turn out, they will turn out to vote anyway, but we want to vote against you. They want to teach the party some lessons.
That's where the skirt and blouse issues
That's where the
start
skirt and
coming up.
blouse matters also do come in. And so when it happens like that, it also affects the presidential, both even the presidential and parliamentary in that case. And so in this case, the parties will have to be united. You need a united front, because already you need your chunk of support base who will always or will vote for you anyway. And then those kingmakers or floating voters who look like all manner of reasons. I remember doing our work in the constituency recently, you know, I told you because of the split, we've spent a lot of time in the constituency. We encountered one voter who said he voted against a candidate because apparently the candidate's brother insulted him on his way to the polling station to vote. You see? So
just on the spur of the moment, he decided to change his mind.
Change his mind, you know. So some of these people, we need a lot of things to keep them into, or to lure them into voting for you. And that's where, apart from the unity aspect, that's catered for your chunk of support base. You need strategy, good strategy. A strategy that will meet the demands and the things that the people need within the constituency.
Which leads me to the question I want to ask next, that what are the key factors that will determine the outcome of this Assin South constituency, especially also now that there's a split with the central having come out of it?
You see, a careful analysis of the electoral areas, and you see the electoral areas and the polling station results, plus our work done there. You know, when you check the electoral areas of the Assin South, Assin Breku, Dominance, Praso, Odumase, Wawase, Sinchim, some of these areas are naturally the MPP strongholds, or I mean, there are areas that do vote for the MPP. And so what happens is that those people, because they will always vote for them, and you can see that from the polling station results. When you check the electoral areas and the polling station, you will see that as for this area, they will always vote for this party. And so in our work, what we do is that we check, we go back to ask about some few people in those areas as to what they think. And the answers they give you will give you a fair idea as to whether they still stick to their old trend or there's a change of mind. And then there are some areas that also will always want to vote based on issues. We always want to see maybe developmental issues like electricity, like most of these areas are farming areas, so they want to see whether a party that have good message on farming and agriculture, the candidate that will be better, you know, present issues of addressing how to better assist them in their farming and all those things. So in those areas, they determines who wins the constituency. But in this area, those areas are not that much to swing the constituency to the other side. But of course, the candidate who is contesting on the ticket of the NDC is quite popular. She's known, the people liked her. And because of her position now, she's been able to address, and recently she's doing a lot of work in terms of...
We'll come back to talk a bit more about the candidates and their chances for the Assin South constituency. But stay with us. This is Constituency Watch. We're just taking a quick breather. We'll be back to look at those issues into detail. You're welcome back. This is still Constituency Watch here on Joy News, your election headquarters, proudly supported by Star Ghana. In the studio with me is Peter Ankoma of the Daily Dispatch. And some of your messages have started coming through already. And Ibrahim in Damogo is trying to jump the gun. Ibrahim, you want Peter to tell us which of the political parties he thinks will win. We'll get to that. Definitely, we will never let Peter go without asking him for his predictions. But before we get to your question, Peter, we're looking at the two candidates, the two main candidates, Professor Fobi and then Sabina. And for Sabina, now she is the DC, and you also did indicate that she was quite popular back in 2008, and that's how come she was able to give Professor Fobi that close marking.
Sure.
I'm wondering, as the DCE now, plus also the campaign being led by female activists that we should get more women into parliament, are these two factors going to help her in this particular post this December? Will she do any better than she did last year, or possibly win the seat?
No. No, yes and no. Yes, in a sense that she's quite popular, and as a DC for the area, she's also doing very well in terms of identifying the needs of the people and trying to meet them.
Okay.
But unfortunately for her, most of the electoral areas that after the division
still
fell,
remain there, are still the NPP ones?
That fell into the Assin South constituency are more of the NPP area than in the past.
Okay.
Apart from that also, even though when you check the electoral history, you will find out that Professor Dominic Fobi's popularity has been reducing. For instance, in 2004, he got Professor Dominic Fobi, 20,837. The NDC and their candidate, 11,060.
Yeah.
The margin of victory was 9,777. But by 2008, Professor Dominic Fobi and MPP, 16,963.
Yeah.
That's a reduction of about 3,000, almost 4,000.
Yeah, almost
4,000.
Yeah.
Madame Sabina Apia, she polled 14,335.
And that was her
first attempt. That is an increase of 11,060 in 2004.
Yeah.
But even in 2004, you know, over the years, Professor Dominic Fobi was quite popular than even his own party. By the 2000 results. But by 2004, his party got more votes than him. He polled 20,837,
and the party had 21,000.
That means more people voted for the party and the presidential candidate
than for him. Okay.
You see, and so you realize that his popularity over the years has been quite reducing. But there are more electoral areas, and those electoral areas, when you check the polling station results and our work done in terms of cross-checking, so far shows that they will still vote for Professor Dominic Fobi. So it looks likely that Professor Dominic Fobi is going to retain the seat for the NPP. What is happening now is that Madame Sabina Apia Kubi, because of her work as a DC, there's some sort of expectation. You know, electorate, when you are in position, in fact, when you are in opposition, what happens is that there are some consider that, oh, because we are in opposition, we do not control funds, and so we do not have access to central government budget and blah blah blah. Which
is actually a case being made by Professor Fobi in the video we just saw. The development of the constituency has stalled because the NDC is now in government.
And so the electorate, there are some electorates that sort of quite considerate, and so they look at all these things. Oh yes, that the person is not in government, and so he or she is sort of limited.
Okay.
But when you are in government, there is this sort of responsibility, very huge one, that the people or the electorates expect that you should be able to do more, and especially when you are the district chief executive, they expect that you control the government funds at the district level, and so you should be able to do more of the things, especially when she contested in the last election, and for that matter, did promise or made some promises to some people, and so that sort of thing is what is working against her now. But of course, she's quite popular. she will be able to sort of bridge the gap between the NPP and NDC in this very constituency. But per our work and the analysis of the constituency, especially the polling station results and the electoral areas, put Professor Dominic Fobi ahead of her.
In 2008, 16,963 and 14,335. Is it likely to get closer? Is the margin likely to close more than this?
Yes, but it also depends on the strategy that the both parties are going to adopt. You know, we discussed the issue, we've already dealt with the issue of personality. And as for personality, both now will help. Both now do have them. The other issue is the issue of message.
Okay.
Who is better addressing the campaign message now? And here, Professor Donifobi has an edge over her because she's in government. You cannot go to people and say, oh, I will do that. You need to tell them, this is what I have done. This is what is left. Give me another, or give me the opportunity to be your member of parliament, or give me this position, I will be able to do that. Professor Donifobi now is in opposition. He is the member of parliament though, and so he will say, oh, when I was this, you know, he was the minister, and so did blah 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 blah. Now give me back the power, and I'll be able to do this, that. You see, and he also has that core support base in terms of who has the biggest or the highest in terms of core support base. He has that over Madam Sabina. And that's all these days, coupled with the fact that you see, and within the last week also, it also depends on how focused the candidate will be. And because you see, in close constituencies like this, the slightest slip by any of the candidates could affect the party and the candidate. Slip in the sense that, when you go and make certain comments, I mean, you go and insult or use some derogatory, remarks or comments against the other, there's a possibility that you will lose. And when your people go around also campaigning on issues that do not better address the issue of the farmer who met a brother of a candidate, and the brother of the candidate just didn't greet or showed some disrespect attitude to him
off a little, and then that's it.
And so depends on how focused and how united you'll be able to bring your people, and how you are able to bring your people to abreast with the issues that you are campaigning on, will help determine who wins the seat. But quite clearly, all things do favor Professor Dominic Fobi than Madam Sabina appear to be.
So it's not even the campaign by gender activists is really going to help Sabina that much?
Even on the national level, there's no scientific statistics to prove that women even vote for their own people.
Okay.
There are several examples that even in the presidential elections where people nominated female running mates in the past and they didn't reflect on their performance. You see, fine female candidates sometimes can help, but it also depends on how articulate, how focused, how strategic the candidate themselves will be in the constituency or in the elections. Women will not vote for a woman necessarily because you are a woman.
Okay.
In any case, the political parties, for us, believe that do just pay lip service to the issue of just empowering women and encouraging women to parliament. Because you see, of the 230, now it's 275, so it will increase. About 180 are safe seats for the two main political parties, that whoever contests on the ticket of the parties will win. And so we believe that if the political parties are committed to, like, say, empowering women or encouraging women to win seats to represent them in parliament, what they should do is just go to, like, say, Congress, pass some quota, pass some, like, say, resolution
of sort, and then
to
give
give
some
quota
to
like, say, out of 3 safe seats, they are giving maybe 10 safe seats, like in the case of the MPP, to women. And that in those constituencies, for this year or for that year, we are allowing only women to contest. And then the same to the NDC or even the other party, that we've passed a resolution, we are giving like 10 or 20 quota to women in our safe seats. And so in those constituencies, what they will do is that they will allow women only to contest. And once they win the primaries, they are automatic members of parliament. Okay, because they will win the national elections.
Okay, but before we go there, I just want to pick your mind on a broader front, since we are talking about women and their participation. How does it look for the women aspirants in this 2012 race? Is it likely most of them will win their seats?
Yes, per our work done, we believe that we will see more women in parliament in 2013 than what is happening now. They are about 16 or so. Yes.
Okay. All right. So let me just take some of your messages that have come in, and then we'll wrap up quickly. This one says, okay, Honorable Sabina Piakubi will win this forthcoming election because Professor Fobi has done nothing for the constituency. Assin South needs real change, and of course it's going to happen. I live in Assin Fossu now. There is no visible development by Kenny Japong until the MC is certain. Okay, so you are in Central.
Yes,
then,
Kennedy Japong's constituency.
Okay, but you're also predicting that Sabina will win Assin South. Okay, and you say that Kenny Japong will come to his constituency. Okay, well, that's for a different constituency. So Jacob from Boku is saying that Peter is doing a good job. May God bless him. Okay, God bless you too for blessing him. And then this one from Nana Beidu. He says, I know for sure that Professor Fobi would maintain his seat in the year 2008, where the odds were against MPP. The good old Prof won. Okay, and this one, okay, you continue to say that my guest, Mr. Ankoma, is too good. I always stay till 10 p.m. to watch him speak on your program. I just love Constituency Watch. Well, we love you back, and we thank you for staying with us every weeknight here on the Joy News channel. But if you missed out on any of our shows, you can watch the playbacks on our YouTube channel. That's at www.youtube.com/myjoyonlinetube. It's myjoyonlinetube is one word. So you go there, you can catch all the shows that you've missed so far. My name is Nia Krofis Matabi. Thanks a lot for your company, and thanks to Peter Ankoma, the deputy editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper, who is my guest in the studio, or who has been my guest in the studio. Marian Toure is coming up shortly with nightly news. Good evening.